At the very offset of my trip, the first thing that I remembered was getting into the plane, sitting down for the first time, and just suddenly realizing that everything that I had been planning on paper for the past couple months was suddenly becoming something that I was about to experience. I had never been overseas before, let alone traveled this far by myself. At that time, I began to have doubts about whether or not I was actually ready to do something like this. So I was kind of nervous, but when I thought back to all the support that I got from my church and how much they had encouraged me and that they were praying for me, I decided to just give it a shot and just continue on with it. And that was the beginning of my trip. So to continue with my video, I'd like to break it into 3 parts. My parts: teaching, studying, and attending a JDM conference. And for each of these parts, I'd like to add a prayer point, just to talk about the situation in Korea and what are the different things that we could pray for them for. Now before I get into any of that, I'd like to talk about arriving in Korea and riding right into Seoul. Driving into Seoul for the first time, one of the things that really struck me was the size of the buildings. There were huge buildings everywhere, and behind the buildings were these tall, tall mountain ranges that just seemed to be so far away. And in the center of the city, there were signs all over the place. And they had the Korean writing system on it, so I looked and here was all these different symbols and these different huge buildings with different designs. I felt like I was driving through like a different world. And as I would find out later, it is totally different. They have a different way of thinking. They have different food. The food is has a different taste and a different look. Different ways of thinking and interacting with people. Different ways to respect people. Different ways to be polite. Yeah, everything was just really, really interesting. I was teaching English in Korea to get some volunteer teaching experience. The private school that I was teaching at is designed to teach English to missionaries, people who want to learn English so they can be more effective as missionaries in the different countries that they are missionaries to. It's a private school run by a Korean couple, and at that time it was located in the capital city of Seoul, Korea. It was a complete English immersion experience. So from 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. we had the entire day planned. Wake up, go to English chapel, go to your classes, eat together, and when you're eating, only use English. Then some more classes. And at the end of the day, my job was just to correct everybody's work while everyone else did their own studying. And on and on and on until nighttime, until we slept. An interesting thing is that this private school is actually run and taught by the wife, by the woman, but the government will not recognize that. She actually needs to register the school through her husband's name. And this would bring us to our first prayer point. To give you the background information on this, you gotta remember that 100 years ago, Korea was a male-dominated society. The men were seen as the heaven, women were seen as the earth, women didn't usually leave their houses, and so on and so forth. Nowadays it's better, but it's still not perfect. What I mean is that if you have 2 people applying for the same job and they have the same qualifications and credentials, the man will probably get the job, whereas the woman probably will not get in most of the time. It's also not that strange to hear people referring to women as the weaker gender. As you can imagine, it might be really hard for the women in Korea living in a society like that. That's the first prayer point, to keep them in mind. The next thing I did was study at Hannam University. While I was there, I studied the Korean language for about a month or so. At the end of the first week, they had a kind of a pottery making class, and they helped us to make and design little pieces of cups and pottery that we could take home. This is the one that I made. It has the word mission written on it in English, and then the Chinese characters for God, and then on the other side it again has the Chinese character for God and the Korean word of missionary underneath. This is just an interesting thing that I made and took home from my parents. While I was there, I met a girl named Ji-hyun. She was the daughter of the lunch lady, and something about this lunch, the whole staff that worked in the cafeteria were so kind and so considerate. It really surprised me. More than once, they cooked me some special meal like eggs or something because they knew that I couldn't eat the spicy food. And if I went through the lunch line and I missed something, they would take that to where I was sitting and give it to me. This leads me to the next prayer point. Through Ji-hyun, I learned about the hard working conditions in Korea, especially her mom. She works something like 12, 13 hours a day with no overtime pay. And she gets paid by the week, not by the hour. So if she works a 15-hour week, she gets paid the same. It all depends how much work is there for her to do. In Korea, people are willing to do this kind of thing and to do this kind of work because they simply need the jobs. The unfortunate outcome for this is that the rich people get richer and the poor people get poorer. So let's keep that in mind and pray for those who are struggling with hard jobs. Also, when I was studying at Hannam University, I had a study partner who was in her early 40s. Through talking with her, I found that she was a really devoted Christian who had been a missionary in Japan for 12 years. She was fluent in Japanese, Korean, and Chinese, and now she was working on English so she could be more effective in the work that she was doing. Near the end of the term, she also told me that she was a pastor as well. Before I left, she gave me this gift. She said, "These fish represent the type of fish that Peter caught after Jesus called him. Before Jesus called him, he caught normal fish. But after, he became a fisher of men." She gave it to me as an encouragement to continue doing what God called me to do. Third and final point, the JDM conference. What is JDM? JDM stands for Jesus Disciple Movement. JDM just began a few years ago as a program designed to work on universities and college campuses to train Christians to be evangelists and to disciple each other. When I was at the conference, there was a well-planned skit, there was music, there was a good speaker, and I was so inspired to see people my own age who were just so passionate about serving God with their lives. Which brings us to our final prayer point. In Korea, the suicide rate is one of the highest in the world. There's many reasons for this. It's the stressful working conditions, maybe because of the way that women are treated. It's not strange for a high school student to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, finish school at 4 p.m., drive to a private school and finish at 11 p.m., go home and study until 2 a.m., and then repeat the cycle over again. While I was in Korea, I met people who personally knew other people who committed suicide because of poor grades. That's one of the reasons why I think JDM is such a good program, because it can help teach students the real priorities of life. I'd just like to say that from the very beginning of the trip, I didn't consider myself worthy to even be called a missionary, and I didn't even consider what I was doing to be missionary work. Even as I was helping with evangelism in the streets, I was thinking to myself, why don't I just do this at home? Why don't I just get a bunch of friends together and do the same kind of thing back here?
하느님은 여러분을 사랑하십니다.
God loves you so much more than any other things.
모든 사람은 죄로 지었습니다. 그래서 우리는 하느님과의 관계가 끊어졌습니다.
All people have sinned. That's why we don't have close relationship with God.
I guess it would seem that all of us are kind of missionaries in the different types of work that we do here at home.